Hello everyone, welcome back to Strike Fighters 2 North Vietnam. We're back with Vietnamese ace Nguyen Van Coke flying J5 Frescoes with the First Flight 923rd Yen Tay Fighter Regiment out of Kep Air Base, North Vietnam. The date is February 3rd, 1966, so we are just coming out of the month-long bombing halt that President Johnson ordered through January of 66, and basically that just ended 3 days ago with the beginning of February. Bombing halts were called all throughout Operation Rolling Thunder. Every time that Johnson and McNamara thought that maybe the North Vietnamese had had enough, had been taught a lesson with their incremental bombing increases, maybe they would come to the negotiating table and some sort of peace talks could finally be worked out. But the North Vietnamese never respected the U.S. in that regard. They saw it as a weakness, and they were more than happy to take the pause to rebuild all their infrastructure and reinforce their troops and squadrons. Also, the bombing was so selective and timid that it never had the psychological impact that McNamara thought that it did, and North Vietnam was never impressed enough by the damage caused to even consider coming to the peace talks. Now keep in mind I'm only referring to Rolling Thunder. Once we get to Linebacker in 72, the North Vietnamese were singing a completely different tune, but let's not get ahead of ourselves because we're not there yet. Let's stick to Rolling Thunder at the moment. So that's what's happened here after a month of silence from Hanoi, while we in the VPAF have reinforced all of our squadrons, got new pilots, new equipment in. The US has finally resumed bombings to continue teaching us a lesson. So let's see what they have in store for us today. Our mission is going to be to provide combat air patrol over Yen Bai airfield, that's out to the northwest, prevent enemy aircraft from approaching the vicinity. Call sign is the Van Quang flight, and we'll be taking 8 J5 Fresco Cs. Takeoff from Kep at 11:06, intercepting the targets at 11:23, and back to the airbase by 11:38. Same loadout as always, we're taking the two 400-liter drop tanks for a total takeoff weight 13,070 pounds. So we'll be taking off from Kep, and then we'll orbit once or twice to get all 8 aircraft off the ground and into formation. And once we're all up, then we head down to the southwest to waypoint 3, which is just south of Viet Tree and the Red River. We'll be staying low the whole way to prevent being seen on American radars and also to give us protection against American Sparrow missiles. After waypoint 3, we turn up to the northwest, following the Red River up to Yen Bai, where we will stay on the lookout for incoming American aircraft and shoot down any that we can. After we run out of fuel, ammo, or targets, then we egress out to the northeast, circling around past the Cow River, down past the city of Tai Nguyen, and then back to Kep, where we will land. First flight of the 923rd supply is still awfully low, less than 30%, but we have been reinforced with more aircraft, so our strength is back up to 20. Third flight, not looking so good though. Their strength is down to 9, so they're less than 50%. And second flight is down to 10, so they're right at 50%. So they're still a little low, but we have full strength back. The Phuc Yen MiG-17s are still in a bad way. Fourth flight down to only 6 aircraft. Second flight has 13. Third flight has 11. But big news during this shutdown is that the first flight of the 921st have actually upgraded to a new aircraft. 20 shiny new MiG-21 F-13 fish beds are now based at Phuc Yen in January of 1966. That's when the first MiG-21s entered active service in the North Vietnamese Air Force and began flying out of Phuc Yen. It was only a very limited number of aircraft at first, but we'll expect to see that growing, and maybe we'll actually see them out and around on the battlefield, which will be exciting. And finally, our roster, once again, very busy today because we're taking 2 flights of aircraft. I'm in Van Quang 1, obviously. Van Quang 2 is going to be Second Lieutenant Nguyen Doi Uon. Leader of the second flight in Van Quang 3 is going to be Second Lieutenant Din Mon Toi. And number 4, Second Lieutenant Duan Van Lee. Leading the second element once again in Van Quang 2-1 is the Squadron CO, Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Nai. Okay, gonna be very busy up there in the skies. I'm taking a whole boatload of planes. No idea what the opposition is going to be, but we're just gonna overload on this one and try to just get a good victory out of the gate coming back from the bombing halt. So we'll see you out there, and let's go hunting some American aircraft.
Yankee, siêu ông tướng 090 cộng từ vòng 1 nhúc mấy thằng chất đấy.
Okay, Van Quang flight is cleared for takeoff runway 30. So here we go. Brakes disengaged, bringing the power up, WP5 engine spooling up to full power, and then we shove it into overdrive. Full afterburner. Speed's coming up. There's 150, 200, 250, looking good. 300, rotate. Alright, looking good. Just out ahead of us, the small town of Kep. What I'm calling Kep, it's not really a direct translation to the real world, but close enough. Out in the distance, Tamdao mountain range. Out in the haze of the distance. And directly ahead, city of Tai Win with the Cow River snaking along behind it. Let's begin our orbit around Fukien while we're getting Van Quang flight up off the ground, marshaled up, into formation. And while we're doing that, today I want to talk about some Cold War era daredevil pilots. A couple of episodes ago, I flew under a bridge on a whim, and it got me thinking about all the real-life stories of Cold War-era pilots who did the same. Fighter pilots have been hot-dogging it all over the countryside since flying's earliest days, but it reached a fever pitch after World War II. The complaints from the civilian population became so great that the U.S. Air Force instituted its buzz number marking system. This was a large identification number painted on an aircraft, which included a 2-letter prefix that identified the type of plane and the last 3 digits of its serial number. Now, any pilots buzzing populated areas or angry farmers could be identified and punished. The buzz numbers were still in place for the first year or so of the Vietnam War, finally disappearing when the new Southeast Asia camo patterns were applied. Pilot tomfoolery was not a uniquely American problem, however. On June 4, 1965, Soviet fighter pilot Valentin Privalov flew his MiG-17 under a crowded bridge on the Ob River in western Siberia. Privalov planned his stunt on a beautiful clear day, while the riverbanks were packed with people on vacation and officers from a nearby military base. He flew under the center span of the communal bridge, 360 feet wide and only 90 feet tall, at over 700 knots, nearly supersonic. The crowds who witnessed this feat reportedly began to applaud spontaneously, but it almost ruined Privalov's career. He was suspended by the Air Force and threatened with more disciplinary action. However, he was saved by the Soviet Minister of Defense, who saw the stunt as a public relations opportunity for the military. Soviet newspapers celebrated the story, along with a photograph of questionable origin, and the event was even mentioned in U.S. papers later that month. Privalov was transferred to the elite 234th Air Regiment to fly demonstration aircraft over Moscow at various events. After a long and successful career in the military, he became the deputy head of Russia's Civil Aviation Air Traffic Control Center in Moscow. On April 5, 1968, Royal Air Force pilot Alan Pollock flew a Hawker Hunter between the spans of famous Tower Bridge on the River Thames in downtown London. Pollock was a flight commander in No. 1 Squadron and was unhappy that not a single flight demonstration had been planned to celebrate the RAF's 50th anniversary. So he planned an unauthorized flight that was both in celebration of the RAF and in demonstration against the current government. Pollock buzzed his way through London in his Hunter jet, circling the Parliament building 3 times, rocked his wings over the RAF memorial downtown, then while zooming down the Thames, suddenly realized that he was approaching the Tower Bridge. Though it was not part of his original plan, within seconds he decided to go for the seductive target, blasting between the upper and lower spans at full speed. Pollock made the most of his flight home, knowing he would most likely be stripped of his flying status. He buzzed 3 more airfields, inverted at 200 feet, before returning to West Wrantham. He was formally arrested upon landing, but was never court-martialed. The British government was eager to avoid possible public support of Pollock's demonstration against Prime Minister Harold Wilson and the Ministry of Defense. Instead, Alan Pollock was quietly discharged from the RAF on medical grounds, his career over. Finally, back in America, on April 28, 1959, Air Force Captain John Lapo flew his RB-47 Stratojet under the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan. The RB-47 was the reconnaissance version of the B-47 nuclear bomber, and Lapo was flying the plane and a 5-man crew home to Columbus, Ohio. As the 5-mile-long Mackinac Bridge came into view at the top of Lake Michigan, Lapo, himself a Michigan native, suddenly gave in to the temptation to go under it. The bomber crossed under the 120-foot clearance at 400 knots, then pulled up into a maximum performance climb away from the waves. Not all of the crew members were happy about the incident, including a new navigator who happened to be a general's son. The incident was reported, and Captain Lapo never flew again. He admitted his guilt at his court-martial, where he was fined, reprimanded, and stripped of his flight status. Though grounded, he remained in the Air Force, retiring after 30 years as a maintenance officer. Van Quang flight is up and together. We're heading out in stacked 3 formation. We are just west of Hanoi, heading southwest down towards our next waypoint. CGI is giving me targets at only 25 miles out to my left already. And they're F4Cs, which are Air Force F4s, and they are primary targets. Those are our targets heading up towards Yanbai out to our right. They're just out over Hanoi. We are not even over the Red River yet, and you can see Yanbai is up there to the upper left. I don't think there's any point in flying all the way out there parallel to them, so let's turn in and intercept these guys. Van Quang breaking off. Let's engage these F4s. And let's start diving down towards the ground to clutter up the F4's radars so they can't fire any Sparrow missiles at us. Let's take a look at them here. Oh, look at that. Southeast Asia camo in the F4s. That's new. Whoa! Lead F4, I think, just got hit by a SAM. I heard a boom, which makes me think that it's not ground fire. Also, he was flying straight and level, and now pieces have been blown off the aircraft, riddled with holes. The pilots have punched out, and this thing is spinning into the ground. Oh man, amazing. Our SAM network has been building up, slowly but surely, and I think we're starting to finally really reap the benefits of it. Alright, where's the next guy? Was there more than one? 20 plus bandits, 12 o'clock, 15 miles, Angels 10, more F4Cs. That must be the rest of the flight. They're dead ahead somewhere up above us. Let's push the throttle forward. Try to close in on them. Okay, 11 o'clock now, less than 10 miles. Let's get Flight 2 engaged on my target. They're going to break off and begin fighting on their own. We're going to keep Flight 1 with me just for a moment until I can actually spot these guys. Where the hell are they? Oh, there they are, 12 o'clock high. Whoa, Sam! Coming up from 11 o'clock low towards the bad guys. There it is, arcing around behind the 2 F4s. Holy shit. Alright, let's get the second element on this guy. I'm at full afterburner now, climbing up into these F4s as they're circling around. We're directly over Hanoi, it seems. Another SAM streaking through the formation. Friendly up and high to my right. Tons of flak, and I see tracers coming up, as well as multiple SAM trails. Friendly has a missile inbound. There must be more F4s behind us. Alright, let's circle around, see who else there is. There we go, there's a closer guy. Off to my right. They were hiding up a little high. And to the right. Sliding in up and around right behind him. If he's zeroed in on one of my guys, we may... Another SAM! Holy Jesus! These Americans are having a really bad day. They are just prime targets. Alright, 2 cover me. We're going to try to close in on this F4. Another SAM down and to the right. Streaking through the air, maybe towards this guy that we're actually pursuing. There he is. He just cut in on one of our J5s. Another SAM off to my left. I just saw the streak going towards this guy. Friendly's out and to my right. I think this is Tai Win in front of us. F4 getting low and slow. Another J5 coming in on his tail. That might be number 3. And he's firing. Whoa! Another SAM from the right. Coming danger close to us. Another one up high and to the right. And I don't want to poach this guy's kill. But if he's, Alright, I think maybe he's... Oh, geez, we've got multiple J5s on him. Let's see if they can knock him down, and if not, I'll step up and just finish this guy so we can move to the next one. Come on, guys. You can do it. F4's firing back at us from somewhere. Possibly the second element. Or, second flight, excuse me. Oh, Jesus, he just let loose at that J5 in front of us. God, so much going on. The F4 has been hit by my guys. A freaking SAM cruised right in between us. He is smoking. Looks like he's got an engine out. Yes, he does. Another SAM. This guy's in a bad way. I should just finish him off. More missiles everywhere. F4 cutting down low and getting slow. I think I'm just going to go for it. I gave the wingman a chance, but let's just finish this guy off. He's on one afterburner trying to maneuver through. Look at that, yawing terribly. Oh, shit. I lost him for a second. We'll just roll up and over. Oop. I guess I'm out of the way. The wingmen are back into taking some hits here. We'll dive right down on him. Yes, yes. Oh, man. There we go. Finished him off. He's going to circle down and crash right into our city, unfortunately. Oh, God, right into a neighborhood. Well, we can just do like in real life, and the North Vietnamese government will call that American bombing of civilians. So, that'll take care of itself. Okay, on to the next target. We have another F4C. Very smoky, going head-to-head with us. Nope, now pulling up into the vertical. We'll try to follow him before we run out of airspeed. Up and over the top as he's just starting to go into a turn. Friendly J5 cutting in inside the circle as well. he is getting away from me. We just don't have the power to keep up with him if they don't make stupid mistakes. Keeping him just within visual range. He's making a slight left turn. If he tightens up that turn, then we can catch up to him. Hopefully move in for the kill. Or maybe we'll watch a SAM take him down, because this is this is an insane amount of SAM activity. Should be noted that in a lot of cases, in real life, you wouldn't see this mix of MiG interceptors and SAMs. The U.S. air crews often reported that there were what they called SAM days or MiG days. Because, especially this early in the war, the North Vietnamese defense network wasn't advanced enough to be able to keep track of targets for the SAMs and to direct aircraft, so they would only send one or the other up. So to have a combined force like this wouldn't be something that we would see until maybe later in the war, but, you know, video game. So we'll take it. It's only helping us out. Picking up more flak now. This F4 is. Looks like he's slowing way down, too. As he is still heading towards Yen Bai. I am pretty sure he's unaware of my presence. We're diving down underneath him, using the trait of altitude for airspeed to slip right in underneath. Now as we're coming back up to altitude, he is fat, dumb, and happy, straight and level, heading towards Yen Bai. Up and over just a little bit to bleed some airspeed. Not enough. Breaks out. Let's put him right in the pipper. Clipped him. Pieces coming off. Hard bank. He's in afterburner. Oh, he's in a turning fight. He's toast! Woo! Oh! Bursts into flames, and he's gonna go and crash down into this other city now. I think that's, where the hell are we? I think that's Yen Bai right there. I think we made it all the way out to Yen Bai. Yeah, this looks like it. The, city behind us to the left, and the airfield down beneath us. Recon F8's out in the distance, down to the south over the hills. Looks like they're bugging out already. Heading back towards Thailand, or, well, in their case, to circle back around out to the sea. Yep. We made it all the way to the mission objective, chasing that F4 all the way up the Red River. Friendly's out and high to the left. And our nearest target is 50 miles away. And I think that's the RF-8. Yes, it is. So he is... They are. Looks like there's a pair of them. So they ran their recon mission on wherever they were going, and they're already on their way out. I don't think they were... Well, actually, they might have been up by us. They might have been close. Obviously, I never saw them, but they are not a factor. They're so far away, so... And we're down to about 450 liters on the remaining tank, so we are bingo fuel. The rest of the squadron is calling bingo, so time to head back to Kip. Let's get everybody together. Van Quang will reform on my wing, and we'll head back towards the airbase. Follow the Red River back down towards Hanoi. That's the small city of Phu To off to our right that we're going to be passing just near. The Van Quang flight is behind me, getting back on my wing. Looks like most of them are still there. I don't remember hearing anybody get shot down in the heat of battle, but, I mean, they could have. I might have missed it, but, I think we're in pretty good shape today. We definitely outnumbered the F4s, especially because they took some ground fire early on. Down about 400 liters on that forward tank, so let's start sending people home. Let's send Flight 2 back to base.
2
And let's get Flight 1 into a line abreast, or line of stern formation, trail formation. Kep's over there on the far side of the Tamdao Mountains. So, let's cut right over and head directly for it. We'll go right over Thud Ridge, just for the fun of it. So fun little facts about the fuel system. These lights that surround the fuel gauge, from what I was told, these are the idiot lights that tell the pilot when the various tanks are empty in the aircraft. So they would be all illuminated right now because all the tanks should be empty. The gauge only measures the last 1,000 liters in the forward tank, and you can see we're down under 400 liters on our way back in. We've got this row of 4 at the bottom with the 2 illuminated. I'm not sure what those are supposed to represent, but I've noticed that those are also non-functional because the left 2 are always illuminated. So I'm not sure what those are supposed to be representing. Maybe they're like the hard points for bombs if we had bombs on board. Maybe that would be telling us the hard points are empty. That I'm not really sure about. But yeah, it looks like the fuel gauge lights are non-operative in this game. Tamdao Mountains getting closer now. We're heading right for that notch along the peak. As I've mentioned before with the Tamdao Mountains, when it was under French control, the Tamdao range here, this was sort of the resort area for the very rich French landowners, the plantation owners, and some of the ruling elite. This is where they had their vacation homes. And now today it's a big national park. And we're just coming up over the spine of the ridge here. What is that, number 4? I think 4 still has his fuel tanks on board. He never dumped them, which means he probably never fired. There we go. There's Kep just way out in the distance. The town of Kep, and I can just barely see the airfield beyond it, so we are just going to get lined up on runway 12. In just a few moments, we will circle to the right. Get lined up right on the center line, make our overflight. You can see the little panel on the left. The 3 illuminated lights appear to be showing that all 3 guns are armed. So I wonder if those bottom 4 lights are also something to do with bomb racks or some sort of like wing munitions that obviously we don't have installed. Gentle descending turn to the right now as we're trying to intercept that center line. Coming down right over Taiwan. Taiwan was the city that the leader of the Yentei revolt was assassinated in by one of his men who was a French spy, and the Yentei revolts are what our squadron is named after, as we learned in the first episode. But that's Taiwan. That's the city in which it happened, where he was killed. Oh, looking good. We are, there we go, lined up. It looks like right on target, right down the center line. And we're making radio contact with the tower. Watching the altitude, we're at 350 meters. And right about there, just over 300 meters of altitude, so that's going to be our 1,000 feet for the flyover. I don't remember exactly what the altitude is at Kep. It's probably around 100 meters, honestly. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know Fujian was. Fujian's at 100 meters. Here's a tower view from something else, one of the other airports that we're flying by, I guess. Should switch over automatically to Kep in a moment. Oh man, that's pretty neat. Look at that. The trail formation looks pretty sweet. Roger, roger, over the airbase. Van Quang flight. Brake for landing.
Ta hiểu rồi, đi về nhà.
Less than 400 kph, down by 350. We are safe for gear. And flaps to landing. As we roll out on downwind, we've got the low fuel light illuminated as we're coming down on 150 liters left in the in the fuel tanks. So cutting it pretty close, but we'll be okay. Leaving the air brakes out so we can spool the engine up to maintain our speed. So if we have to do a go around, we've got immediate engine response. And we're just a beam of the landing point, so beginning my turn to final. We'll let the plane dip back down right towards 200 kph, which is stall speed. Looking good today. I think it's going to be a nice tidy landing this time. And touchdown for safe return to Kep Air Base. Air brakes in, flaps up. And we've actually slowed the airplane enough to maybe take this taxiway. So let's turn off the runway. Alright, successful mission. As we leave the runway, we're going to head over to the apron to park the airplane, and we'll see you over in the debriefing. Alright, let's review today's mission. We were to provide combat air patrol over the Yanbai airfield, prevent enemy aircraft from approaching the vicinity. Flight time was 30 minutes and 49 seconds. Result, 4 primary targets were destroyed. I'm assuming that's all 4. I think it was only a flight of 4 F4s. We got them all for an outstanding success score of 2,200 points. Here's our stats today. I got 2 F4 Phantoms, knocked them both down, and still had ammo left on board, so I could have kept fighting if there was more targets. But you can see that I did not go through my entire ammo load. All of my wingmen ended up not firing their weapons. All 3 of them, no weapon fired. So maybe they just weren't able to get into firing position, and then we ran out of targets before they had a chance to. But you can see the second flight, very, very busy. All 4 aircraft actually were firing, and one of them, Lieutenant Tat, got a hit, and I think that was the hit on the F4 that we were following as well. So I think we actually ended up stealing that kill from him, or maybe we could look at it that we shared a kill. But he's the only one who actually hit anything. But the other guys were at least firing like mad, so they were having a good time over there in the second flight. Over to the roster real quick, but there's no real changes there because, as we saw in the debrief, no J5s were hit or shot down, and none of the other pilots got any kills, so the only change was 2 extra for me. Other than that, Lieutenant Winduck Bao is still wounded, and we've got the handful of other guys who were killed on previous missions, but no changes other than that. And over to the log. Unfortunately, the log doesn't show us what that first F4 was hit by, but I'm pretty positive that it was a SAM based on the rest of the SAM activity, and this is so early in the war that none of those F4s would have had any sort of radar detecting devices on board, which is why they probably didn't even see it coming. At 11:19, an F4 fired a Sparrow at Lieutenant Colonel Nee. He was the leader of the second element, luckily for a miss. And then Lieutenant Tat got fired at. And back and forth, they were firing some missiles at us, but mostly we were shooting at them. Really what happened today is we got them in sort of the classic early war conundrum of forcing the poorly trained Air Force pilots into low-speed turning maneuvers and basically just cutting inside their circles and being able to tear them up. Luckily, really taking advantage of our tactical situation today and being able to drop these guys. Morale's going to be high in the squadron after that one. Okay, that was today's mission. We're going to wrap it up. Today was the perfect conditions for the J5 out there. We outnumbered the enemy, which is always good. They had no reinforcements, and we had heavy support from our ground defense network. So we were able to press the attack using our turning ability, which is superior. We were able to shoot down all the airplanes. Alright, that's going to do it for today. We'll see you next time in Strike Fighters 2 North Vietnam.